One afternoon, Gwako and his son completed a successful fishing trip. Gwako smiles as he unloads the fish, whispering to his son, Kito, today's catch is enough to bring us joy. Let's make haste and share it with the market folk. Just as they began their walk toward the bustling market, a sudden urgent cry cut through the morning calm. It was a woman's voice pleading for help. Guaco's gaze snapped toward the sea, where a sleek white yacht rocked perilously near the coral reef. The woman clung to a broken piece of wood, fighting for breath, coughing, her voice trembling. Please, help! Please, help! Along the shores of the bustling coastal city of Mombasa, where tradition and modernity blend in a dance as old as time itself, lived a fisherman named Gwako. Young, determined, and devoted to his son Kito, Gwako's days were spent casting nets into the shimmering waters, each throw a silent prayer for a better tomorrow. Gwako's life was simple yet full of love. His world revolved around Kito, whose giggles were a balm to his tired spirit. But on this morning, as the market bells rang and the scent of salt hung heavy in the air, fate readied itself to weave a story that would change their lives forever. One afternoon, Gwako and his son completed a successful fishing trip. Gwako smiles as he unloads the fish, whispering to his son, Kito, today's catch is enough to bring us joy. Let's make haste and share it with the market folk. But just as they began their walk toward the bustling market, a sudden urgent cry cut through the morning calm. It was a woman's voice pleading for help. Guaco's gaze snapped toward the sea, where a sleek white yacht rocked perilously near the coral reef. He didn't hesitate. Throwing a quick command to Kito to stay put, Guaco pushed off from the shore and rowed hard, his muscles straining as the sea hissed and splashed around him. The moments felt like hours until he reached the capsized vessel, where a woman's pale arm broke the surface of the water. She clung to a broken piece of wood, fighting for breath, coughing, her voice trembling. Please, help. Guaco replies calmly but firmly, You're safe now. Hold on. In the deep blue embrace of the sea, fate and destiny intertwined as Guaco with careful strength pulled the woman from the water into his boat, eyes meeting hers for a fleeting moment, a moment that would linger long after the sea had calmed. Word spread fast in the village. The mysterious woman, Malaika, was given shelter by the community while she recovered. Gwako watched over her, bringing fresh coconut water and offering reassurances in his quiet way. Over the days that followed, the village learned that the woman with storm grey eyes was no ordinary traveler. Malaika came from Europe, a world away, where her name was spoken with reverence in circles of power. A millionaire, she had fled her empire, seeking not just rest, but a deeper purpose. Malaika's tale captured the imagination of the village. She spoke of cities that never slept, where lights blazed until morning, and people rushed like wind through crowded streets. Yet here, in this humble village, she found something she hadn't expected: peace. I came looking for escape, but I found something greater. Your village holds a spirit money cannot buy, Malaika said wistfully to Gwako. Gwako listened, drawn not just to her words, but to the ache in her voice that mirrored his own, loss and longing buried deep. As days turned into weeks, Malaika began to lend her expertise. She taught Gwako modern fishing techniques, bringing supplies that transformed his small operation. The village watched in awe as their humble market expanded, tourists trickling in to buy fresh, sustainable fish and hear the tale of the woman who had come from across the seas. Prosperity touched every corner of the village, but prosperity, like the ocean, carried its own currents of change. Long days turned into warm nights, where Gwako and Malaika sat by the shore, sharing laughter and dreams under starlit skies. Kito had taken to Malaika, trailing her like a shadow, eyes wide with admiration. Malaika looked at Gwako, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Life here is simple, real. It's worth more than all my wealth. Gwako's heart, once guarded, began to open. He found himself drawn to her resilience and kindness, two flames that mirrored his own. But soon the whispers in the village turned to concern. Tradition ran deep, and the sight of Gwako and Malaika sharing quiet moments did not go unnoticed. One evening, the village elders gathered, their faces lined with wisdom and worry. The first elder spoke out, Gwako, we have welcomed this woman, and her presence has brought fortune. But love, marriage, she comes from a world too different, too far. A second elder said, we must honor our ways. A union like this invites trouble, divides what must remain whole. Gwako stood before them, the weight of centuries pressing down on his shoulders. How could he explain that love knew no color, no border? But the eyes of the elders, stern and unyielding, spoke of a struggle far greater than himself. With tension thick in the air, Gwako found himself at the edge of the sea one night, Malaika by his side. The moon cast a silver path over the water. Gwako, his voice trembling but strong. Malaika, life has not been kind to us before, but here we found something worth fighting for. Will you stay not as a guest, but as family? Tears fell down Malaika's cheeks. She said, yes, 1,000 times yes. The news spread like wildfire. Some were elated, others worried. Tensions rose as elders openly rejected their union, claiming it would disrupt the harmony of tradition and future. The village stood divided, families whispering into the night as waves crashed against the shore, carrying secrets to the depths. What began as an act of kindness had now become a test of resolve. Love and tradition stood like warriors on opposing sides of the battlefield, and the battle was far from over. The village that once thrived on unity now found itself at a crossroads. Neighbors exchanged wary glances, and whispered arguments floated through open windows. Even the children seemed to sense the unease, their laughter subdued as they played in the shadow of the elders' disapproval. A village is more than just huts and roads. It is built on the silent agreements between its people. And now those agreements were cracking. Malaika felt the tension like a storm building on the horizon. She walked the narrow paths, the eyes of some villagers warm with gratitude and others cold with judgment. Gwako, steadfast and strong, stood beside her, refusing to let the weight of their stares break his resolve. Gwako looked at Malaika and said with a steady voice, we will face this together. Our love is not a betrayal, it is a promise. Under the glow of a late night fire, the village elders met to discuss the fate of the couple. Their voices, deep with age, resonated with worry. If we let this union stand, what message do we send? Will the young believe tradition has no hold? Said an elder. Change is coming whether we wish it or not, but a river cannot change course without causing a flood, added a second elder. In the darkness outside, Kito listened from behind a tree, heart pounding. He did not understand the intricacies of their arguments, only that they spoke of his father and the woman who had brought joy back into their small home. He rushed back to Gwako and Malaika, his words tumbling from his mouth. They say you cannot marry. They are afraid. Malaika knelt down, holding Kito's small hands in her own, eyes soft with both love and worry. Fear is powerful, Kito, but so is hope. We must show them the good that comes when fear is set aside, said Malaika. Days passed, and Malaika knew that words would not be enough to shift the hearts of those who opposed them. She gathered the women of the village, many of whom she had befriended, by teaching them new skills to sell their goods. With their support, she organized a gathering at the central square, an open invitation for everyone to come and share their thoughts. When a village gathers, it is not just bodies that fill the space, but the spirit of ancestors, watching, judging, and perhaps hoping for their descendants to forge a path forward. The square buzzed with quiet murmurs as the villagers assembled. The elders stood at the front, faces stern, while Gwako and Malaika held hands at the center. Kito sat nearby, eyes wide and hopeful. Malaika addressed the crowd. I have been a stranger here, yet I found a home. I do not wish to take from your traditions, only to add to them. The world beyond this village is vast, but it is not without its own emptiness. Here I found more than riches. I found purpose, community, and love. A moment of silence fell before an elderly woman, one of the respected village matriarchs, stepped forward and said, We have seen what you brought to our shores prosperity, new ways. But can this bond between you and Gwako truly last? Will it be more than a story the waves wash away? Just as tension rose, a sudden shout came from the edge of the crowd. A young fisherman, running breathlessly, announced that a storm was brewing over the sea, fierce and relentless. It was a storm that threatened to destroy not just homes, but the very lifeline of their village, the boats and nets they depended on. Nature has a way of bringing people together, reminding them of their shared fate. Gwako, without a word, led the charge, calling for men to secure the boats, while Malaika organized the women to safeguard their stored goods and supplies. The elders, taken aback by the swift coordination, found themselves joining the effort. Kito, too young to help much, carried small items and shouted encouragements. As the storm raged through the night, the village became a blur of movement and shouts. Gwako worked tirelessly alongside Malaika, their partnership evident in every glance and gesture. When the winds finally died down, the village stood battered but intact, spared the worst by their unified efforts. Later that morning, light revealed the damage. A few boats splintered, nets torn, and rooftops missing pieces. But no lives were lost, and for that the village breathed a collective sigh of relief. The elders, weary but watching, noted how Gwako and Malaika's leadership had woven a net of unity stronger than any tradition. Some elders, after seeing the events that night, begin to whisper as they meet with Gwako. Perhaps it is not the customs that bind us, but the spirit of our people. Gwako, your choice, your strength, it brought us through the storm. Tradition is not weakened by change. It is tested, and if worthy, it endures. Hope, once hesitant, began to bloom in the hearts of the villagers. Change had come, not to uproot them, but to show them that unity was the strongest tradition of all. The elders called for one last gathering, this time to hear the voices of the village. Men and women, young and old, stood to speak. Some clung to the past, while others spoke of a new future. A fisherman who had once been skeptical stood up, wiping his brow. I have lived my life guided by the old ways, but last night I saw something stronger than fear, courage. If Gwako's heart leads him to Malaika, then let them be as the tide and shore, meeting and parting, yet always together. Whispers turned to nods, and nods turned to applause. The elders exchanged glances, silent agreement passing between them. Suddenly the elder raised his hand and said, let it be known, the village stands with you. May your union bring strength and wisdom. The square erupted into cheers. Gwako held Malaika's hand tight, the relief washing over them. The women began to sing a song of hope, drums thundering in rhythm. Kito darted around, laughing and cheering, the sun catching the tear tracks on his cheeks. This was not just a victory for two souls, but for an entire village. They had weathered more than one storm. They had weathered change. As preparations for the wedding began, the village filled with the colors of celebration. Cloths of deep red, bright yellow, and ocean blue fluttered in the breeze. Food was prepared, and laughter echoed through the narrow paths, now bright with unity. With the village now bound by a deeper understanding, Gwako and Malaika's journey toward their grand ceremony promises to reveal even more of the strength that love and community hold. Challenges still remain, for peace, like the sea, must be tended. But for now, joy takes center stage. The day of the wedding dawned bright and clear, the storm's memory now a distant hum beneath the sun's warm gaze. The village bustled with life as people adorned themselves in vibrant traditional attire. Music filled the air, drums, flutes, and the gentle hum of voices blending in harmonious celebration. Flowers and handmade decorations covered the square, transforming it into a scene of color and joy. The village that once stood divided now thrived with a shared sense of purpose, the air alive with the promise of a new beginning. Gwako stood in front of the community, dressed in a white tunic with intricate hand-stitched patterns. Beside him, Malaika wore a flowing dress that combined the bold designs of African fabrics with a touch of European elegance. Kito beamed with excitement, standing proudly between them. The ceremony began with blessings from the village elders. The matriarch, who had spoken up before, stepped forward. Today, we honor not just Gwako and Malaika, but the strength of love that bridges distances and brings hope. Let this union remind us that while tradition holds us steady, it is love and courage that carry us forward. With that, the crowd erupted in applause, their earlier doubts washed away by the celebration of newfound unity. Gwako and Malaika exchanged vows, their voices steady and full of emotion. Gwako placed the handmade shell ring on her finger and said his vow. With this ring, I promise to stand by you through calm seas and storms. Malaika smiled, her eyes bright, and with this promise, I will be not just a guest, but part of this family forever. Dancers moved gracefully, their feet thumping in rhythm with the heartbeat of the drums. Children played, weaving between adults who clapped and sang. Food was shared, stories retold, and laughter mingled with the scent of spices and sea breeze. The once fractured village now celebrated as one, their spirits lifted by the union that defied fear and embraced hope. The village learned that change need not be feared, but welcomed if guided by love and respect. Tradition, once seen as an unmovable mountain, proved itself flexible when touched by sincerity and courage. As the sun began to dip into the horizon, casting golden hues across the village, Gwako, Malaika, and Kito sat on a small hill overlooking the sea. The waves whispered their stories, carrying memories of storms and calm alike. Malaika turned to Gwako and Kito. This is home, not because of the land, but because of us and everyone who chose to stand together. Gwako smiles at Kito, yes, and it will be home for those who come after us, who hear this story and know that love can change the course of a life, a family, even a village. And so the story of Gwako and Malaika spread beyond the village, whispered from mouth to mouth, from traveler to traveler. It became a tale of hope, a reminder that unity is forged not just in tradition, but in the courage to embrace what is different. Moral lesson: true strength lies not in resisting change, but in understanding when to adapt. Love, respect, and courage can bridge divides that seem impossible, bringing unity where there was once division. The fisherman's fortune became more than a tale of love. It was a beacon for generations to come. It reminded people that while the sea is wide and deep, the strongest waves are those formed by hearts bound together. In a small village that learned to look beyond its shores, life carried on with renewed joy, bound by the lessons of compassion, resilience, and hope. Thank you for joining us on this journey of love, resilience, and unity. We hope you carry this story in your heart, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that its lessons ripple outwards like the waves of the sea. Until next time, remember that love is the bridge that unites us all.